Hey guys, Assassinator1, Karim Zareka, KZ, whatever you like to call me. Today I'll be doing a 30-minute ethical hacking video. Before we get started, please consider the disclaimer and know that I do not endorse but rather condemn the use of malicious hacking, and know that this video is mainly used to prevent malicious attacks from happening to you. Without further ado, let's get started. The first attack we'll be using is a MITM attack, where basically data is being transmitted from source to destination, where the attacker stands in the middle of the data being transmitted, which we call data in transit, and therefore the attacker is able to complete a successful man-in-the-middle attack. The next attack is called the NSA Eternal Blue exploit, where the attacker does a port scan and network mapping on the local area network in order to attack the server message blocks port 455. And last but not least, using a payload to exploit the OS while also encrypting your payload, which we call FUD, making it fully undetectable for antiviruses, which makes it the most common used exploit in the art of hacking. Okay guys, so let's get straight into the tutorial. First we'll open the terminal, cd into our desktop, cd into Xtrasploit, and then sudo python Xtrasploit after installing Xtrasploit. So then type in scan, it will map your network and it should find all the IP addresses in your local area network. So we're going to copy this table because we're going to use this table throughout the whole tutorial, depending on which machines we want to attack. And we'll touch IP underscore tables and then vim into the IP tables, and then I for insert, control shift V to paste the tables, exit control ZZ, clear, and then we will cat the IP tables. Okay, so let's leave this as a reference throughout the whole tutorial. Exit this, and then 10.0.0.2 is the first machine we will attack, which is running on an Intel computer and Windows 7, which is this computer right here. So say the victim now loads browser, google.com, and enters a PHP equals ID 1. So let's say it enters a vulnerable PHP website, so for example one like this. Let's open the first three, so 1, 2, 3. Okay, so these are our three websites the victim has opened. So next we will type in help, will replace all web images with your own one. So I have downloaded an image from the internet saying you've been hacked. So let's try and inject this into the victim's web browser. So we'll type run and then the path. So root desktop index.png, enter, and the attack has started. So if the victim refreshes his website, okay, so as you can see, the images that are shown are you've been hacked, which is the images we ejected through our Kali Linux machine. Alright, so now let's do the NSA Eternal Blue exploit. So we don't need a terminal for this, we're just going to open Armitage or whatever you like to call it. And we'll wait for the database to load. Here it just gives you a simple loopback address. Just click connect and let the RPC server automatically run for you via Metasploit. So now when this loads up, let's go quickly back to our table. CD Xtrasploit, CD desktop, CD Xtrasploit, and cat IP tables. Okay. The next machine we'll be attacking is this one right over here. So this one is running on Windows 7 and it's running on a virtual machine. ipconfig, this machine is running on a .12 network. So which is this one right here, also running on Intel. Oh well, it's running on the exact same machine actually. As you can see, the MAC addresses are the exact same because it's the exact same physical computer, but this one's just running on a virtual operating system via virtual machine. I'm actually using virtual VMware Workstation Pro 14, if that makes your life easier. Okay, so then we'll click on hosts, we'll go nmap, scan, and do a quick scan, since we already know the IP address. So 10.0.0.12 and then / subnet mask of 24. So 24 means 255.255.255.0. Press OK, and it's gonna do a nmap scan. So that's all done. Use the tags, find the tags to suggest, blah blah blah. Scan is complete. Once scan is complete, find the IP address on your interface, click on that, then right click, go to scan, and then let it scan all the ports, and as you can see, the transmission control protocol is open, which means that it's vulnerable. So auxiliary failed, don't worry about that, just go over here and type in eternal blue, and you would only have one here anyway. This is SMB, the server message block, and the server message block is run on port 455, which we'll be listening to. The Eternal Blue double pulsar is mostly used for ransomware attacks and whatnot. That's for a completely different tutorial, so we won't go into that in detail. We won't go into it at all actually. So we're going to go on to Eternal Blue MS17. We'll click and drag that into our host, and we'll use a reverse connection and then launch, and now it should do its thing. There we go. So it started the exploit, core or buffer dumps of 40 bytes. This is the offsets, so this is binary converted to hex, whatever, which translate to Windows 7 blah 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 blah. You don't even have to worry what it's doing. What it's done is it's opened a command shell session, which means that you can interact with this virtual machine right now with a shell, and you will only be limited to run this shell, I believe, via command prompts. So let's go shell1 interact, and there we go. So we've pretty much accessed the system with no payload, no backdoor, no nothing, simply by listening to a port on the server message block, port 455. So if you go cd c / pwd dir, pwd is for terminal. There you go, you're into the C drive. So let's just try and view this file on the desktop. So this file right here, file.txt. Let's just cd input. So cd users cd username, the user, whatever the name is on the operating system. So in this case it's Karim, and for some reason it's rebooted, which destroys my whole tutorial that I'm trying to do, because now I cannot ls into anything or dir into anything because I've lost my shell. Sorry about that guys, but the system somehow rebooted, and obviously if the system reboots you lose your shell, common sense. So let's cd into the username again, and then dir cd into desktop, and if we do a dir command we should see file.txt 5 bytes, and yeah, that's pretty much it for this one. So that's all you can really do when you're listening on a port without any payload. Very limited, but yeah, as you can see, we were able to read the operating system by only listening to the server message block on port 455 using the Eternal Blue method. NSA attack, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so now let's do an attack using a payload and an interpreter session. So first we'll open our terminal and create the payload, or the virus. Pretty much makes a backdoor on the victim's operating system. So cd desktop, cd fat rats. Press enter to continue, enter again, and then we will go on number 2, create a fully undetectable backdoor. So FUD stands for fully undetectable, so a virus can't detect it. With this program, I'm pretty sure it can, unless you're using, an encryptor, or you bind your virus with some encoder, and then the virus can't detect it simply. So we'll use Power Stager, PowerShell, and we will enter our local IP address, which is on this machine, and you can choose whatever port you want to listen on, but I am going to listen on port 4444, and I will name the payload CD output. This is where the program stores the payloads. Let's remove payload.bat because we're going to make this an executable, not a batch file, and we're going to name the payload backdoor, and the architecture is a 64-bit operating system, and let's hide the file as a Word document, say. Let's do it as a PDF document. PDF.icon. Press enter. Building the Power Stager. Your file is created successfully. No, we do not want to create a listener. So then we will go cd output, and as you can see, backdoor.exe. So let's copy that backdoor into our root desktop, and we will drag it into our USB drive. So once that's done, we will go onto our victim's computer. Let's open MSF console. Okay, so now this is the framework that we'll be using to create a stage and be able to interact with the shell that we have. So the shell is pretty much encoded into that PDF document. It's not even a PDF, it's an executable really, but within that executable has all those the scripts to be able to interact with the session or the shell. Wake up, Neo, the Matrix has you. Follow the white rabbit. Knock knock, Neo. Neo. The white rabbit. So is this the Matrix? Anyway, so we'll do use exploit multi-handler, and then we'll set the payload, and the payload will be on a Windows operating system, architecture of 64 bits, and an interpreter is the type of listener we'll be using, session we'll be using, whatever, and we'll be using that on reverse, the protocol of reverse translation control protocol, reverse TCP, and then we will exploit -J, and it gives us an error. So let's go show options, and that error was caused because we don't have a host IP address assigned to the host. So open terminal, if config, if you don't know your own IP address, we've already gone through this IP address 100 times. It's a .8 IP address, so we'll enter set L host to 10.0.0.8. Show options, good to go. if your L port is not set, so say your L port was whatever, so how you change it is the same way we changed our L host. So set L ports to 4444, which 4444 is the one we used in our payload. Show options to confirm that this is what you want. So you want your L port to be on this IP address, your L host to be on this IP address, and your L port to listen on this port. So once we go exploit -j, we have now started a listener on the protocol of TCP, so Transmission Control Protocol, and we've started a handler on this current IP address, listening on anything that is on port 4444, which is in our PDF document. So now, if we go to our computer, once the victim executes that, whatever it is, a PDF, an image, a Word document, it will give him an error, but keep in mind this is a fake error, and just to spoof the victim. So now when we go back on our Linux machine, we've sent a stage and received a session, and yeah, we're pretty much in. So now we can start programming what we need to program. So two important things when you have a session is to the first thing that a hacker would want to do is to escalate privileges. So without escalating the privileges, you're limited to what you can do with the OS. Pretty much just as limited as listening to a port when we did the NSA attack before. So we need to escalate the privileges, and we need to keep persistence. So persistence is if the victim reboots his operating system or whatever, then we pretty much lose our shell, and all our work was for nothing. So those are the two most important things we need to do. So let's do those first, and then we'll go from there. So we're going to press enter, and we're going to go show sessions. We only have one session because we're only interacting with one PC at the moment. So sessions -I, and the ID is 1. So now we've entered the interpreter, and we're interacting with this shell. So if we go sysinfo, it will load some basic information about the operating system, such as the architecture, the OS, just some basic information. So let's try do a dump hash command. Hash dump, sorry. So this dumps the hashes of the operating system, which is pretty much the salt hashes, the password of the computer, pretty much. It's failed to do that, obviously, because we don't have administrative privileges. So let's try escalate the privileges by doing get system, and the get system has failed. So we will try another method to escalate the privileges. Okay, let's try and go. Let's kill this entire session. So we'll go background. No, I don't want to keep the session. I want to kill the session. I shouldn't have pressed background. So let me go back into sessions I, and then I'll go quit. Okay, sending stage, receive the session. I accidentally made another session, so that's why I named it session 3. So sessions I, and then open session 3. Okay, so now let's Control Z and background the session 3. So click yes. And now we're going to use an exploit, Windows local bypass UF_VBS, show options, and exploit. Let's see how that goes. If we can get administrative privileges. No, that didn't work. Okay. So let's try use use exploit multi-handler. Actually, just let's now go into sessions i3 and get system. There you go. Got system via technique 1, named pipe, impersonation, in memory / admin, whatever. Okay, beautiful. So once you have admin privileges, you can do whatever you want. So let's try the command we wanted to try before. So that was hash dump. And as you can see, dump the hashes. So now this hash, if you do a salting attack on it, you can decrypt that hash and get the plain text, which will be the password. But this tutorial isn't really about that, so that's for another tutorial. So let's go ls, and ls should get you into the files of the user. Okay, so first let's go to our virtual machine and let's create a file here. Name it file, and let's write text in the file. Text 101. Okay. Now let's take this file into our main C drive, into the root of the C drive. Okay. And let's leave a copy on the desktop. Okay. So now let's go back to the Linux machine. And if we go now to cd C, the main C drive, we should see a file called file.txt. So now let's try to view that file and see what's in it. We will write download file.txt, open a new terminal, and then ls into our root directory, and we should see file.txt. If you see what's inside that, it should say text 101. Let's try vim into that file now, file.txt, and let's change the text and say text 101, this file has been hacked, whatever. Exit, control Z to save the file, cat the file again, and it should say text, this file has been hacked. Now let's try and remove the existing file that's already on the os.txt, verify it's removed, and as you can see it's removed on the Windows now, and we will write upload file.txt. So now this file is now uploaded again, and it says text, this file has been hacked. So this example was purely to show that you can read, write, and execute. Before we go into running a persistence command, let's just see one of some of the things you could do with Metasploit. So, for example, let's go a key scan _ start. Now this starts live keystroke sniffer. Pretty much anything entered on the victim's machine that is typed will be read, and then once dumped onto our Kali Linux machine, we can view what the victim has written. For example, let's go on next. Let's say the victim is on facebook.com. The user he enters is cats and mice. The password he enters is password 101. He then goes to Combank and 4239530 is always the first two. I think that's a St. George one, by the way. The last ones are always random. And he puts his client number in, say blah 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 blah, whatever. Okay, so now if we go back to our Linux machine and go key scan dump, we can see that so this is a bit messy because when I was doing it I kind of backspaced and whatnot, but whatever. So Facebook, and so we can see username, cats and mice, password 101, goes to Combank, puts his credit card details, whatever, client number, etc, etc. So pretty scary, pretty dangerous. So you don't want a payload to be on your machine, that's for sure. And yeah, let's now go and try what is it? Record_mic. Hello.
Hello.
So as you can see, I just recorded a live audio directly coming from the operating system, which is stored in our root directory right over here, and there it is. So yeah, pretty scary again. And I mean, you can also do record mic, put the timer, and you can set whatever the timer you want it to record, whatever. But yeah, that's for another tutorial. So now let's do persistence. So let's background this session and confirm that the show is still active, and then quit Metasploit, and then CD into your desktop, CD into Cobalt Strike, CD into the old version of Cobalt Strike, and start Cobalt Strike. Okay, so we're in Cobalt Strike. So this is pretty much a GUI interface. Gonna go payload, and actually we're gonna go on exploit. No, payload. Payload, Windows, interpreter, and ours is on a reverse transmission control protocol. Change the. By the way, my IP address changed, so that's why it says 0.5 now, but never mind that, leave yours the same, and click launch, and it's exploiting. I'm just waiting to receive the stage. There we go. So obviously our session was still alive, and we should have privileges. So we'll just try to do escalate privileges with the exploits Cobalt Strike has given us. We'll escalate it by let's do this by a golden ticket, and launch the golden ticket, run the exploit, and just wait for Cobalt Strike to do its job. Really, it's Metasploit doing its job, but the creator of Cobalt Strike has made it nice and easy. So that failed, so let's just now try to do a get system, and it should work. Obtained system via technique 1. Beauty. Now, if we go to persist, and then launch, voila. Does it all for you. We could have done this through Metasploit, but I just felt like opening Cobalt Strike just for the fun of it. Running persistent module against Windows via session ID 1. So let's wait for this to finish, and if all goes well, we shouldn't receive an error, and it should inject a Visual Basic script. Visual Basics obviously runs on the C language, C#, C++, C++, whatever it is. Doesn't matter. What matters is that the script has successfully now been written in the Windows OS, and it is written in our C drive in our local temp folder. And this is the output name of the file, and its properties is in a Visual Basic format. So now, let's go to our victim's machine. Let's close out of this text. Don't want to save that. Don't want that. Let's go CMD and let's go start C drive users app data. Cannot find. Okay. Can you find that? No, you can't. Why not? Why not? Why not? Why not? Start C and then users. It's probably case sensitive, that's why. And then app data. There we go. And then we will go to local temp, and there it is, dx blah blah blah, and it's in a Visual Basics script. If we open this notepad, I haven't actually tried this before, but it should be encrypted. Encrypted in base 64 encoding. Okay, cool. Okay, cool, and cool. So now we have persistence. So now, on our victim's machine, let us try and, we're not going to suspend, but we're going to shut down the guest. Do not show this message again. Please shut down the virtual operating system. Now on our Kali Linux machine, it should say that the interpreter session 1 has closed. Why? Because it's died. Why has it died? Because it's rebooted our operating system. So let's now turn the operating system back on, and we should get the shell opening up again by itself. So on the console, it should say that it's died at the moment, which is a bit of a panic for a hacker when he sees that, but it's a good thing for the victim. Alright, so we'll wait for the operating system to load virtually, and now everything's loaded, and now there's the magic. Interpreter session 2 has opened on this whatever machine it is, and the victim's machine, it's a .9. By the way, as I said before, the IP addresses have changed, which is a normal thing in networking. IP addresses, they remain the same.